This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
.45, this is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Danushka Madhavala, read by Soundhi Thavam. Basil Rajapaksa to be sworn in as an MP today. All teachers in the country will be vaccinated from Monday. The government focuses on increasing the minimum wage of the private sector employees. The number of confirmed COVID infections in the country increases to 268,000. The Prime Minister emphasises that no one will be allowed to destroy the country's heritage. In world news, South Africa's former President Jacob Zuma hands himself over to the police. And in sports, England reached the Euro 2020 final after beating Denmark. Former Minister Basil Rajapaksa, head of the Presidential Task Force on Poverty Alleviation and Economic Revival, is scheduled to be sworn in as a member of the Sri Lanka Parliament this morning. Basil Rajapaksa, founder of the ruling party Sri Lanka Podujana Peramana, was declared a National List MP by the Election Commission yesterday after former SLBC MP Jayantha Katagoda resigned to pave the way for the Rajapaksa brother to enter the legislature. Sergeant-at-Arms Narendra Fernando said that the 9th seat in the front row of the ruling party has been set for him, as he will be sworn in as a cabinet minister today after being sworn in as an MP. Accordingly, when Basil Rajapaksa takes a seat in the House, the seat to his left is reserved for the President and the seat to his right is reserved for the Health Minister Pavitra Manyarachi. The Minister of Education, Professor G.L. Pierce, said the programme to administer the COVID-19 vaccine to all teachers in the country within a week will commence on Monday, 12th July, as decided during the recent discussion with the President. Accordingly, arrangements have been made to vaccinate all the teachers as well as principals and all non-academic employees of 10,155 schools in the country with this programme. Addressing a media briefing yesterday at the Surupaya premises, the minister said, due to the direct intervention of the President, this task has been completed expeditiously. Accordingly, the principals are to appoint support staff and send them to the respective centres to identify the teachers, and as a first step, the vaccination will be carried out considering all the teachers as a priority group so that the schools can be opened as soon as possible. It is also expected to open schools with less than 100 children, government-aided schools and pirivenas as the first step in the process of opening schools for children. The government has focused its attention to increase the minimum salary of the private sector employees. It was discussed in the Ministerial Advisory Subcommittee meeting held with the participation of Minister Nimal Siripala de Silva. It was discussed to increase present minimum salary of 10,000 rupees to 15,500 rupees per month. And discussions were held to increase the 400 rupees minimum daily wage to 500 rupees per day. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
People's Bank, celebrating 60 years of empowering the nation.
Another 551 COVID-19 cases have been detected yesterday in the country, raising the number of confirmed infections to 268,662. Accordingly, 1,229 coronavirus cases were detected in Sri Lanka yesterday. The Epidemiology Unit at the Ministry of Health said 27,180 persons are currently receiving treatment for the coronavirus at several facilities across the country. Sri Lanka Wednesday reported that 38 deaths due to COVID-19 had occurred on Tuesday. The Director General of Health Services on Wednesday confirmed that the 38 deaths that occurred on Tuesday, July 6th, due to COVID-19. Among the dead on Tuesday are 21 males and 17 females. The majority of the deaths, numbering 29, was of the people in the age group of 60 years and above. According to the data reported by the Government Information Department, the total deaths due to COVID-19 since the pandemic began last month, March, has now risen to 3,351, including the deaths confirmed on Tuesday. The Director General of Health Services has issued a new set of quarantine measures for travellers arriving in the country from overseas during the COVID-19 pandemic. It states that Sri Lankan citizens, including Sri Lankan seafarers arriving by air or dual citizens, do not need to get the prior approval from the Foreign Ministry and Civil Aviation Authority of Sri Lanka to arrive in Sri Lanka. They can request a quarantine hotel or government quarantine centre after arriving in Sri Lanka, the statement said. Meanwhile, all travellers arriving in Sri Lanka should mandatorily carry a negative COVID-19 PCR test report in the English language done within 72 hours prior to embarkation. Travellers who have received the recommended doses of COVID-19 vaccine are required to carry the original certificate of vaccination, card or a verifiable evidence of vaccination. If the recommended doses of the COVID-19 vaccinations are completed and departs from abroad 2 weeks after completion of the vaccination, they will be considered as fully vaccinated. No further quarantine is necessary for fully vaccinated travellers if the on-arrival PCR test report is negative, the DG of Health Services said. But they have to conduct a PCR test on day 7 after arriving on Sri Lanka from a Ministry of Health approved laboratory. Minister Sarath Weerasekara says that the Rajapaksa regime that has been able to end the 30-year-long war will never leave space for any foes to instigate terrorism or extremism in the country once again. The culprits who are responsible for the Easter Sunday attacks will be brought to book in the near future. 32 accused in this case have been prosecuted at present. Minister Weerasekara made these comments in Parliament yesterday. Legal action has been taken against 16 suspects of the Mavanella Buddha statue destroying incident. The former IGP and former Defence Secretary have also been indicted with regard to the Easter Sunday attack. That came to you in local news.
Towards a new dimension in innovation, People's Bank, celebrating 60 years of empowering the nation.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa emphasised that no one will be allowed to destroy the country's heritage. The Premier made these observations while participating in the 131st National Archaeological Celebrations held at Temple Trees yesterday. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa presided over this national ceremony, which marked the naming of Somawathiya and the Riddhi Vihara as archaeological research centres. The President presented the relevant sannas to the Venerable Pahamune Sri Sumangala Thera, Chief Incumbent of the Somawathiya Raja Mahavihara, and the Chief Incumbent of the Riddhi Vihara, Tibbatuwave Buddharakita Thera, and came to you in the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
On to Watchlight, the residents complain that the Siladora Aranyasenasnya premises have become a paradise for racketeers. The surrounding in this land is now thickly weedy forest. At present, valuable timber is also being destroyed by these racketeers. This situation will cause biodiversity. This is for the attention of the Nagoda Divisional Secretary and came to you in Watchlight. Moving on to a bulletin of world news, making headlines, South Africa's former President Jacob Zuma hands himself over to the police. Zero hope of finding survivors in Florida tower collapse. China's midnight patrol cracks down on young gamers. South Africa's former President Jacob Zuma has handed himself into the police to begin serving a jail sentence for contempt of court. He travelled to a prison near his home in KwaZulu-Natal province late on Wednesday, his foundation said. The police had warned that they were prepared to arrest the 79-year-old if he did not hand himself in by the end of the day. Mr. Zuma was given a 15-month jail term last week after he failed to attend a corruption inquiry. The sentencing sparked an unprecedented legal drama in South Africa, with a deadline imposed of midnight on Wednesday for his arrest. The deadline was imposed after Mr. Zuma refused to hand himself in on Sunday. Rescue teams combing the rubble of a collapsed apartment building in Florida are switching from a search and rescue mission to a recovery effort. The decision comes after about 2 weeks after the 12-story Champlain Towers South fell in the middle of the night. 46 victims have been found and 94 are still missing, Surfside city officials said. No survivors have been found since the initial collapse, and rescue crews say many victims were found in their beds. News that the rescue mission was ending came during a private meeting on Wednesday between the families of the missing and the Miami-Dade Assistant Fire Chief, Raid Jadallah. Chinese gaming giant Tencent is rolling out facial recognition to stop children playing between 2200 hours and 8 o'clock. The midnight patrol technology will stop tricks circumventing the government curfew introduced in 2019 with a cap on what young gamers could spend on in-game transactions, it says. The bans require gamers to register with their official IDs linking to a national database. But children have reportedly been using adult IDs instead of their own. And now anyone playing for a certain length of time will require a facial scan to prove they are an adult. Back to the headlines of the world news. South Africa's former President Jacob Zuma hands himself over to the police. Zero hope of finding survivors in Florida tower collapse. And China's midnight patrol cracks down on young gamers. That concludes this bulletin of world news. In development news, a memorandum of understanding has been signed between the chairman of the Oman Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the president of the National Chamber of Commerce in Sri Lanka, the Times of Oman reported. The Oman Chamber of Commerce said in a statement that the MOU with the National Chamber of Commerce in Sri Lanka was with the aim of contributing to enhancing the volume of commercial cooperation and developing the network of communication between business owners in the two countries. That's development news, and moving on to sports, it's football first. England's 55-year wait to reach a major men's final is over at last after victory against Denmark at the Euro 2020 on a night of nerve-shredding tension, then unconfined joy at Wembley. Gareth Southgate's side were on a mission to travel one step further than any England side had done since the 1966 World Cup final win against West Germany, and they finally achieved the long-cherished goal as they came from behind to triumph in extra time. In front of 66,000 fans and in a frenzied, thunderous atmosphere this newer Wembley has not experienced before, England battled their way out of adversity to secure meeting with Italy in the final at the same venue on Sunday. On to tennis news. Defending champion Novak Djokovic had too much quality for Hungary's Martin Fiskovic as he reached the Wimbledon semi-finals with a focused display. Djokovic, 34, was far from his best, but still won 6-3, 6-4, 6-4 against the 29-year-old, who was contesting his first Grand Slam quarter-final. The Serb will play 10th-seed Denis Shapovalov on Friday after the Canadian beat Russian 25th seed Karen Khachanov. Djokovic is now 2 wins from a record equaling 20th men's major. All that came to you in sports news. We look at business news next.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
Former US President Donald Trump has filed a lawsuit against tech giants Google, Twitter and Facebook, claiming that he is a victim of censorship. The class action lawsuit also targets the 3 companies' CEOs. Mr. Trump was suspended from his social accounts in January over public safety concerns in the wake of the Capitol riots led by his supporters. On Wednesday, Mr. Trump called the lawsuit a very beautiful development for our freedom of speech. In a news conference from his golf resort in Bedminster, New Jersey, Mr. Trump railed against social media companies and Democrats who he accused of espousing misinformation. That's business news, economic news to follow.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
Economic news, courtesy of...
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
Tech giant Samsung Electronics has said it expects its quarterly profit to rise by 53% amid a global chip shortage. The world's biggest memory chip and smartphone maker forecast operating profit of $11 billion for the 3 months to the end of June. It said strong demand for memory chips had offset weaker sales of devices due to the shortage of components. The South Korean electronics giant's outlook easily beat analysts' expectations, signaling continued strength for the technology industry. If the figures are confirmed later this month, it will be Samsung's biggest second-quarter profit since 2018. That came to you in Economic News.
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
The showery conditions in the western, Sabaragamu, central and southern provinces over the southwestern part of the island and the windy conditions over the island and the surrounding sea areas are likely to enhance during the next few days. Showers and thundershowers will occur at times in the western, Sabaragamu, northwestern, southern and central provinces. Fairly heavy showers above 75 millimeters can be expected at some places. Showers or thundershowers may occur at a few places in the Uva and eastern provinces and in the Mullaitivu district during the evening or night.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
To conclude this bulletin of news, a recap of the headlines. Basil Rajapaksa to be sworn in as an MP today. All teachers in the country will be vaccinated from Monday. The government focuses on increasing the minimum wage of the private sector employees. The number of confirmed COVID infections in the country increases to 268,000. The Prime Minister emphasizes that no one will be allowed to destroy the country's heritage. South Africa's former President Jacob Zuma hands himself over to the police. And England reached the Euro 2020 final after beating Denmark. That concludes this morning's news broadcast.